Have you been told everything looks normal but you are struggling to get pregnant? That was me for years until I discovered I had endometriosis. So let me share with you my story. It all started, my first symptoms I noticed when I was 15 years old. I told my doctors then, and they just put me on birth control, which helped maybe a little bit, but I still had a lot of symptoms. But I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that I had endometriosis. I was not diagnosed until I was in my 30s. So I struggled with this for years and just dealt with it. Even though I told my doctors like all these symptoms, and they never once mentioned that maybe I have endometriosis. So let's check if you have it. They just told me to take ibuprofen. Um, you know, looking back now, I can't even believe it. Like, I wish I would have pushed harder. I wish I would have just done more research. I mean, I was really young, but this is why I'm making these videos, because I just want to help as many people as possible so that you don't have to struggle for years like I did. So I was not diagnosed until I was in my 30s. So when I first found out, it was because I went in for surgery because I had fibroids. So I had an MRI done. They found out I had fibroids. When the surgeon was in there, he discovered I had stage 3 endometriosis, which was another reason I wasn't getting pregnant after almost 10 years. So it really affects your infertility. And I'm gonna name off a bunch of symptoms, and I have notes because it's just a lot of information, so I don't want to forget anything. And I had most of these symptoms, so listen to all these symptoms. Severe pelvic pain. That is a major sign, especially during menstruation. So for me, it was not only during my periods, but also when I worked out a lot. I did CrossFit for years, and it is intense, but there would be days where I was fine. And then all of a sudden, like one day, I would just be like running or doing something, and I had to just stop and go sit down and like just squeeze my stomach. And I didn't want anybody to even like look at me because it hurt so bad, and I just wanted to cry. And everybody's just wondering like, what happened to her, So that's one symptom. Chronic lower back pain, abdominal pain, pain during or after intercourse, pain during bowel movements or urination, spotting between your periods and having heavy periods, fatigue, nausea, bloating, and if all of those three like worsen during your period also, and if you're struggling to get pregnant and you can't, so if you're having infertility issues, those are all big signs of endometriosis. So with painful periods, that's, people can define that in different ways. So if you have cramping, like intense cramping, that's debilitating, it prevents you from doing normal activity, that's a sign. Like, you should not be, curled up in your bed, like squeezing your belly with heating pads and, all these things every month. That's not normal. And the crazy thing is that I had most of these symptoms when I was 15. I would literally be like puking and had diarrhea and just like hot, cold sweats. Like, I had the flu every month almost. And it would last like, usually it was like the first day, and I would have to be popping ibuprofen like all day long. Back then I took Midol. It would make me super jittery, but like it did help reduce the pain. I just like had to take whatever I could because I couldn't handle it. I can't live like that. So if you have any of those symptoms and you're dealing with infertility, you're definitely not alone. And I do want to mention the only way to 100% confirm this diagnosis is through laparoscopy. So I went to a couple fertility doctors years ago, and they claimed that they did a test on me, but they did not do a laparoscopy. They said they did a test on me to check if I had endometriosis, and that I didn't. So, now looking back, I'm like, I have no idea what they did because I did have it. So laparoscopy, let me explain what it is. So it's a minimally invasive surgical procedure. The surgeon examines your pelvis with a camera. So they do that along with imaging tests. So they cannot just do imaging tests because you will not always see it on that. So the best imaging, I would say, is an MRI. So with an MRI, that's how they discovered I had the fibroids, which with other imaging, they weren't able to see them. So, what else? I do want to mention, so when they went in for my surgery, there was a robotic myomectomy. They go in with cameras. I had 3 incisions on my belly, and then they go in vaginally also. And it's amazing that they can do that. But so they went in that way to remove the fibroids, and then that's how he discovered I had endometriosis. After that surgery, I did look more into my diet because I wanted to figure out, what am I doing that's causing this? Like, I wanted to change my diet and just figure out, what are the best foods that I can be eating to help prevent this from growing back. I'll be sharing all that information also in another video. And also, I will be sharing my story of IVF and my experience after discovering that I had endometriosis.